Hi, the Golden State Warriors are 14-10 and have been eliminated from the NBA Cup. Welcome back to the weekly Warriors wrap, and oh, we are so back. I missed last week, and I'll talk about those games, but since the last time I did one of these, the Warriors have gone 4-2, and they're 2-7 in their last 9. But first, I've got to go over this Rockets loss, the game that ends a 15-game winning streak for the Warriors against the Rockets, one which had been extended by Kuminga and Wiggins without Draymond or Steph just a week before. And there's a lot of cope complaints that can be made about this game, and I'm going to make them, but really, the reason they lost this game is the reasons that they've lost all these games lately. Some pillars of failure, if you will. The first is what I spent a lot of time talking about in the last video, the team's near complete lack of production through the second unit and the constant stretches without points. Steve Kerr going back to his last season form, and if the team can actually bring the game close, which they've done on a few occasions, awful clutch production. And there's another culprit here, and I'll give you 3 seconds to guess which cartoon crescent moon come to life is ruining nearly every minute of basketball he's playing. That's right, Brandon Podziemski. Oh my god, I cannot believe I called this dude bone marrow. How was I so deceived by offensive rebounds and plus minus? I thought I was better than that. He's just not holding the team together, and I don't know enough about the human body to find a replacement analogy, but it's bad. And here's some examples why I'm so disappointed with Pods, because I can forgive a guy going through a shooting slump. It happens to everyone. Just take good shots and stump up on defense. Don't do things like fouling a shooter behind the arc after you've just shot a dumb 3, or giving up baseline when you're last man back, or not fighting through the screen and giving up an open 3 in the clutch, or getting into arguments with Buddy Hield. This aggression will not stand, or it won't stand for a player who hasn't done anything in their career yet. The shot selection is equally awful. I'm sick of possessions where he drives into the paint, stops, and throws up junk. Kerr was openly critical of Podziemski after the Denver game, talking about this turnover, which I mean, yikes. And Kerr has said that this pass was insane, and that if Brandon is going to be on the floor, he has to be tough and a smart decision maker. Is change coming from Steve? No. Since that Denver disaster, he's averaged 28 minutes a game, giving 7.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 3 assists, playing big minutes in the fourth quarter for a guy shooting 13% from 3 in the final frame. And it's a Steve Kerr classic. Latch onto a guy, watch him fail, publicly call him out to be better, continue playing him, see no improvement, or even better, watch him get worse, and hope that somewhere along the line it all changes. And like all Steve Kerr decisions, like the multiple guard lineups all the time, he started James Michael McAdoo in a finals game. Jordan Bell was a rotation guy. He got it right then, so why can't he ride Anthony Lamb, Corey Joseph, and now B-Pods? What's worse is that this time it's a guy with the franchise is completely in love with. The owner says should be an all-star one day, that management decides is untouchable in a Larry Markkinen or Paul George trade. Just for the record, I never wanted Paul George. It wasn't just Pods that held up that deal. Kuminga would have been in it too, and while there's a world where maybe the absolute max potential Kuminga is better than Larry, there's no universe out there where Pods is even comparable to Markkinen. But this guy thinks it's a personal insult that he's not considered on the shortlist for the 2028 Olympic team. For America, the best team in the world, he thinks he's a shoo-in. And at this point, I'm sure that every other team has caught on to how poorly he's playing, so his trade value is basically nothing. But what I wouldn't give to have him in a trade, my kingdom for Cameron Johnson or for Herb Jones or a completely enraged Jimmy Butler before his pending free agency, or just anyone who can put the ball in the bucket on their own. And I point all that out because I think he is currently the worst player on the team, but I'm also unsure of the general reception of Pods. Is it, hey, he's a good little player? No, he's getting 25 minutes a game and he's tanking the offense when he's the ball handler. And there are other options. Kyle Anderson is right there. I would be perfectly happy if Kyle got all of Pods' minutes right now. I don't care if that sounds like a bad idea. Anyway, let's talk about the end of the Rockets NBA Cup game, which, because they lost, means they get a few days off, something which Steve Kerr wasn't particularly happy about, and which has given me more time to ruminate, and it's not helping. I feel so bad. But let's go through some of the plays in the Rockets game, the second one, because the last 20 seconds are a bit of a microcosm of the whole issue. Steph gets an open shot against Dylan Brooks, and like Steph said, if he makes this, they go to Vegas, but still a little early in the clock. He could have waited like another 4 seconds before getting into it, whatever, but he didn't, and it misses, and Gary Payton dives on the ball, and he has to call a timeout here. There's 3 seconds on the clock in a 1-point game, and Steve Kerr is trying to call timeout himself, but gets ignored by the referees, which is a thing that happens. There's a lot going on. It's loud. I don't blame anyone for that. Ball spits out to Jalen Green, and Kuminga gets called for the foul on the reach-in. The last 2-minute report for this game, the most useless document produced by the NBA, says the referees missed a call by Van Vliet on Payton, then made a correct call on Kuminga. And honestly, both of those are no calls. No one is watching the games for free throws. And considering the whistle the referees were blowing the rest of that game, I mean, let the boys play. Speaking of the whistle, this is the only call that I'm actually mad about, the snake bite on Holiday against Steph that goes missed. Rockets go down the other end and hit a 3, so it's a 5-point swing, and Bill Kennedy says, "My bad." It is your bad, Bill. Poor job. The rest of it, look, they're bad calls, but the Warriors completely fell apart in the clutch. They did not score a point after 3 minutes and 3 seconds when Kuminga made a free throw, and in that time they allowed the Rockets to score 7 points, 2 of them gifted by Billy Kennedy. But call me Jalen Brunson, but the Warriors aren't in that situation if they can score even a single bucket in the last 3 minutes of an elimination game. And that goes for Steph too. That's the most I'm going to criticize my GOAT, but he's been struggling in the clutch recently. In their last 10 games, the Warriors have a fourth quarter offensive rating of 94.6 points per 100 possessions, the worst in the league, and a defensive rating of 115 points per 100 possessions. So, all right, but they're giving up leads or getting blown out. Some more stats, welcome to the Joe Reads Numbers section. With Steph on the floor, they're the 4th best offense in the league, and without him, they're the worst. What happened to that bench scoring 60 points a game? I miss DeAnthony Melton. One more stat and then I'll move on. In the loss against the Timberwolves, the Warriors' offensive rating with Steph on the court was 115. Without him, it was 32. And again, just to belabor the point about how bad that is, if you gave the Warriors 100 possessions without Steph, they'd score 32 points against the Timberwolves. And if you gave me a ball and I went onto a court and took 100 half-court heaves, I guess I could make 11 of them. I think that's possible. That would be more efficient than the Warriors' bench. Some other stuff that I want to mention from the other games, I thought Kuminga was really mature in his decision-making in the win against the Rockets. Wiggins was great and assertive until he was injured, and that injury is really hurting the team right now. I did a piece after the Timberwolves win about Draymond choosing the right kind of violence, but in that game, Gary Payton's fourth quarter minutes were also super valuable, and welcome back to playing well, Buddy Hield. I actually think Buddy's struggles have been more the fault of the lineups he's been in than anything else, and I don't want to go into too many of the losses since I'll just be repeating myself from earlier. Anyway, regular segments. Should Steve Kerr be fired? We're going maybe. I'm not losing my mind just yet, but I'm seeing a lot of familiar aspects that made me want him fired last year. Warriors favorability index, Pods is D. I think I explained why. I'm also dropping Trace down to C because he seems to have lost his hands recently. Loon back to B, not his fault. He'd just been playing really well and now he's a little closer to base level. And otherwise, everyone kind of stays the same. Couple days off now until the Mavs come back into town, and hopefully the rest gives everyone a chance to woo up. Steph can get some shots up or something. All right, bye. I'll be back next week.